Hello, Xander.
Hello.
We can't see you. Are you calling on video Skype?
Oh, geez,
Oh, wait, maybe it's going to... Chad?
You can just
What
turn on.
else
You
is
can just
there?
turn on video, Xander.
Hit the little button that says video and see if it comes
Video,
on.
yeah. Oh, now I just turned off the little button that says video.
Okay, hold on. Oh, wait,
there
here
you
you
go.
go. Yay!
Mr. Handsome.
All right? Yeah, that's what I would...
Now we can see you. Hello, and welcome to the Jimmy Star Show.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. I'm technologically challenged, as you may have gathered, so this is like a big undertaking for me.
That's okay. We appreciate it. Let me introduce you to everybody, starting out with our cool, outrageous man about town, Mr. Ron Russell.
Don't worry about it. I'm also handicapped when it comes to this. And, we go out to 18 million people, so you really want to do it right. And you get a little nervous when you're working with things like Skype. Who ever heard of Skype? The only thing I ever heard of when I was a kid was those binoculars you look through when you see film. Those little pictures. So here we are.
Then we've got our Hollywood vixen, Deidra Sarego.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, man about town. Hello, Hollywood vixen.
Then we got the man behind the boards, Mr. Chad Murphy. He's in Florida.
Xander, it's finally good to have some talent on the show.
Oh, geez.
Oh, we have a lot of talent,
Now,
Chad.
come on, Chad.
I'm
I'm
just
Jimmy
playing.
Star. We want to welcome you to the show. And before we get started, say hello to everybody in the chat room.
Hello to everybody in the chat room.
There you go. So let
From
me
my
first...
living room to your chat room.
There, that works perfect. So first of all, let's work out the thing of how we pronounce your name. It's Xander, right?
Well, it's Xander, like
Xander.
More Z.
Xerox, xylophone, all the other popular X words.
Okay, because I went on YouTube looking for stuff for you, and there's actually a tutorial on how to say your name right, but I don't think they say it right.
So much for tutorials.
Yeah, and I thought that was just fun in general that you have like a 30-second tutorial somebody put together on saying your name, and I swear to God, I thought they said Sander, so I think it's like
You're kidding.
wrong.
They really did that?
Yeah, they really did that.
That's
So
That's good publicity.
we want to welcome you to the Jimmy Star Show. Excited to have you here, and want to talk about all kinds of cool things that you do. So where in California do you live?
I live in the hills of Hollywood.
There you go. That
Fabulous.
works. And you have a new TV show, Salem. What's he going to get? Are you going to get something that we can see?
The thing that's distracting me in the background, it was my old Chinese headrest. No, that's not even what it was. I don't know what's bothering me. I look at things visually. I'm not looking at myself. I'm looking at the things behind me. Is it all right from your point of view?
Yeah.
You look terrific.
Yeah, you look fabulous.
I got a few things going. Salem is an odd one because I'm good friends with the guy that created the show, and they left it very much in a cliffhanger to accommodate me to a certain extent because I want them to have come up with a great enough storyline to warrant being away from my small children. I have 2 daughters, and I have to. It has to be an interesting enough storyline to justify their paying me as much as they will be paying me if I go back. And so it's a dialogue that's taking place.
That's nice.
And
It's nice
good.
to be in a position to be able to do that. I haven't actually seen the show. I watched a bunch of clips, but she watches it.
I did. I watched the first season when I was in New Orleans shooting, and I loved it. I hope you come back, and I hope the show comes back for a second series.
Well, they picked it up after like the second or the third episode aired because it so outperformed their expectations. Brand new WGN was being rebranded by Fox 21 and FX in this new original content thing for cable, and Manhattan was their second show, and they didn't know how they would go about finding their audience, and they're sort of finding their way as they all do when they start out, and it was a lot of fun working on it, and I'd be happy to go back, but there's a lot of other things that are going on starting this week, and so I'm very luckily too busy to think about it until they make up their minds.
which is nice. It's nice to have that option to be able to
busy.
do all of that in the first place.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very happy that men our age are back in film. Because for a while we were not in film. We were always decrepit in a bed dying. But now men our age can be heroes. We can have lovers. We can make love to women. We can ride airplanes. We do anything we want. Writers now are starting to write that the people that are 65 years old.
He's
are
not 65.
I am. I'm talking about me.
White beard for Salem, but don't.
Yeah, no, Xander's younger than that.
Well, I'm talking about
I'm not
me.
decrepit yet, so speak
No,
for
but it's
yourself.
nice to know that 50 plus still gets work. That's what I'm saying. 50 plus today gets work. Remember, years ago, 50 plus.
I think there's a lot more ageism today in other areas of culture, I think, than there were. There used to be that sense of looking up to your elders and
No, not anymore.
you know, the workplace all over. I think a lot of people are suffering ageism. Luckily, as stories will always involve older people, so I think we'll always. I remember the first agent I ever had brought me into the office to introduce me to the other agent and said, "Look at this face. He's going to start working and he won't stop. He'll be one of those actors working when he's 85 years old." And I thought from your lips to God's ears, and it's kind of been that way ever since I was young. And I always felt like in college I was always playing the older characters because I was a makeup man and I could do the transformation as well as the physical transformation with the makeup. And so I feel like I'm just coming into my type now.
Actually, though, like, because you play like such iconic characters in so many different shows, or you have over. I mean, I guess we should say congratulations first of all, because from Mommie Dearest to now is many years of you making a ton of great films and being in a ton of great television series, and so we should say congratulations on that in the first place. Everybody knows, like, I found you on Twitter. I was like tweeting and looking for like cool guests, and it's funny because probably some of the things that I remember you the most from are probably like not even. It's just the fact that you do such offbeat things as well as these big blockbuster things that makes me find you so interesting and so appealing that you can do every kind of different genre. Because believe it or not, like, I love Kick-Ass. For Christmas, I got all the toys from Kick-Ass. Like, and the fact that you were like in Kick-Ass and you looked so like cool but stupid, like your character was kind of like so stupid of everything that was going on for someone who's also played all these heavy dramatic roles. I just thought that the choices that you've made were super cool, and the fact that you were in Kick-Ass, you know, my favorite movie of all time is A Few Good Men, so like you kind of like have, you know, Kick-Ass and A Few Good Men in my head don't really go together for the same actor, but the fact that you're such a good actor and you get to do all the different genres and different types of characters makes me find you fascinating, intriguing, and awesome.
Let's get to a really
wait.
good question.
Let him answer.
You ran with that. You ran with
Jimmy,
that
what
one.
that made me think is that in these different genres, as you were saying it, each movie you do in a particular genre seems to have its own offspring of subgenres. That, like, some director, like I remember when I worked with this guy Todd Haynes, a director I really love.
Storytelling, I think, or storytelling?
That was Todd Solondz, another
okay.
New York hipster filmmaker who I love. But Todd Haynes was Safe with Julianne Moore.
Oh yeah, okay.
He'd seen me in Sid and Nancy, and he said, "I really want to take that guy from Sid and Nancy, who was the junkie drug dealer, and I wanted to see him play this because I knew you could do anything. I wanted to watch you in this independent film world manifest as the regular guy, the normal, the husband in the valley who doesn't get what's going on." And that excited him to go completely against type, but it was still in that subgenre of smart art film, independent film. And from that film, from Safe, the guy who did Gattaca confided in me after he'd cast me to play the doctor in Gattaca that he secretly wanted that guy who was in Safe because he thought I would bring this atmosphere of the strange sci-fi realm while being completely natural, just because that's the kind of the good baggage that you bring with you. If you do make choices not predicated on the money and the splashy exposure, but you end up appealing to really smart filmmakers. And I'm working with this kid next week. I say kid, he's 24 years old. That was when I did Mommie Dearest. I was a kid. and he's written the most beautiful screenplay, and it's set in Maine, and beautifully using the peak of autumn as a special effect in a way,
Nice.
as a setting for it. And we're in discussions about my daughter perhaps playing my son in the beginning of the movie.
Cool.
And starting a whole new generation.
See that?
Actually, though, you have a whole.
Wait, I want to ask him a question.
Okay.
Betty Davis said that she hated Faye Dunaway and thought she was the most unprofessional actress ever. How did you find working with Faye Dunaway?
You know, it's funny.
In Mommie Dearest.
Yeah, well, when I met her, I was meeting two movie stars at once because she was all done up as Joan and she was stepping out of a 1940s white limousine Rolls Royce. And she was like, and Frank Perry, the director, introduced, said, Xander, this is Xander Berkeley. He'll be playing your son. Xander, this is Faye. And she was like, hello.
Yeah, that's what Betty Davis hated. I mean, I knew Betty well. And Betty and I sometimes used to dish about, like, Errol Flynn we talked about. You know, she hated him too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she couldn't stand Errol Flynn because he grabbed her vagina once while they were shooting as she was Queen Elizabeth.
Her vagina?
I have to use the proper word. I would have used the other word. But we got a letter from somebody saying we're vulgar. So now we're cleaning up the show. Anyway, Errol Flynn bit her. He actually went down and bit her on the box while they were shooting Queen Elizabeth. So she couldn't get over that ever. But Betty said that Faye Dunaway.
That is a little inappropriate. I mean, usually
Errol
before
Flynn
you
was
touch anything like that, you usually talk to your co-star beforehand and say,
he
what
did
are you
it. He
comfortable
did it
with?
to spite her.
Well,
he hated her.
Unprofessional.
They
I would have kicked his ass.
hated each other because Betty
nasty
Davis was the
story.
power. And any man Betty Davis was the power. Any man that tried to be as powerful as her was eaten up alive. That's why she had actors like George Brent, you know, those bread and butter guys. But anyway, getting back to Faye Dunaway, Betty said that she was the most unprofessional actress she had ever met in her life. What do you think?
You know, it's funny because I was doing a friend's radio show and I just bashed her badly last week.
Good.
And I don't feel bad about it at all because I was dear friends. I became like fast friends with Diana Scarwood, who played Christina, and I was playing her brother Christopher. And we just immediately bonded like these little broken birds. That and I remember the same way that Faye greeted me that day that I met her. The two of us were walking in on the Brentwood property because we were going to move from one location to the next, and we're walking by the house where we would have lived, I suppose, as children. And we're walking by her, and Christina said, "Hello, Faye," and 3 full strides past, she turned around and did the same. Oh, hello. What killed me was that I one time towards the end of the whole experience, which to me was a brutal cherry popping experience, because I had auditioned originally for a scene that they never ended up shooting, wherein Christopher, not ever having said I love you, goodbye, fuck you, I hate you, any of these things, is suddenly confronted with her corpse in a coffin in this very elegant funeral home.
I know this.
Sorry, my wife made a green drink for me today, and all kinds of green things are like lodged in my. Pardonnez-moi, s'il vous plaît.
Okay, so go on with the story. It's interesting.
He's choking. Okay.
You don't choke when you're around.
Anyway, I spent, I shot the scene where I get nixed out of the will with Christina. There, I think that's it.
And they cut your scene out completely?
Green flew across the room. Where we'd been nixed out of the will and all that we'd done. And so the final scene that I got to shoot was the scene I'd auditioned with a full 5 months earlier and was waiting to do. And my grandmother had just passed away, and she was a grand dame of the Joan Crawford sort of school. And so I was using this experience that I loved my grandmother dearly, but there was a lot of mixed emotions towards the end. She hadn't treated my dad very well, and there was a lot of just stuff. And so I was just sitting on all that in a funeral home with just this mortuary just filled from floor to ceiling with flowers that they had done. It was a big Paramount production, and they were recreating old Hollywood.
It was a great scene, and she was behind the curtain.
Yeah, and I was there, like in the theater, you come an hour if you have serious makeup to do, and a half an hour if you don't, before the curtain rises and you go on. And this was really just my first movie and my first experience of waiting for 7 hours.
Oh, for Faye to get ready?
And well, who knows what was happening, but she had been devouring scenery for 5 straight months and spitting the director and everybody else.
No, that's what Betty Davis said. Betty
And
said on set, "I'm going to demolish her." To one of the
let me
directors.
do the punchline before I forget it. That they finally take me after 7 hours of holding this emotion in, breathing in the real flowers, which you don't get in theater either. And all of a sudden you're being pulled in, and the AD, the assistant director, is saying, "Okay, they're ready for your scene now, Xander." And I'm sort of fragilely being headed towards, and Frank Perry, the director, comes up and goes, "Okay, so Christina's going to come out from behind the curtain, and you two are going to greet each other. You haven't seen each other in a while, but you're close, and so you're just going to greet each other and go out. It's sad, but anyway." And I, well, when do I go behind the curtain? And he goes, "Oh no, that's a scrub. No, we don't. You didn't hear it? Yeah, no, that's been cut for months. We don't know that Christopher actually did go in and view the body. So we're just going to have her come out, and then you two are going to greet each other, and then." And it's like,
that was a weak scene. That should not have been.
And you waited all that time
And
to
it
like.
should have been as you shot it, because
And he rehearsed all that time.
no, because if you're familiar with the movie,
another planet, because I was just so freaked out.
No, if you're familiar with the movie, Christina does come out. Joan's laying there with her pearls and bullshit, like looking like a stone. And the daughter looks at her, another stone, and then she turns and she parts the curtains. Now, the brother should have definitely have been with her. And I always felt that it was sort of like Christopher's last smack in the face.
Yeah.
Joan Crawford's in the coffin and you can't see Mommie Dearest. Get away, you little creep. I was always offended by that. Funny that you should be upset about that, because I, as the viewer, were very upset about it. I thought, poor Christopher, he can't even see the old bitch dead.
Yeah.
To even curse her out or anything.
Spit in her face.
Were moved by it, but for me, it was just such a disappointment that I didn't get to fulfill this thing, which had the only time in my career I did in the audition over at Paramount, and they watched me do it, and they just took the script and said, "Will you be in our movie?" And it was my first movie. I went, "It would be my pleasure."
You better believe it.
Yes,
and
definitely.
So to not get to do that was kind of a trip. Tom Hanks and I did volunteers right after that. And he told me at one point that he had told that story at lectures about how brutal the business can be. And I don't say it from the point of view of poor me, but it's just an interesting beginning. And it also established me in a kind of culty kind of way that I like. But the story about Joan that just really floored me was that Diana was a cool girl, but she left the business because of what Joan did to her in that movie. She had one scene that was supposed to be her big breakdown scene in the laundry room or something. And it was one of those takes, she said, that you only get once. It's just, that's it. It's all happening. And in the middle of the take, Joan steps in front of the camera and turns right to the camera and to the director and goes, "Oh, did you want tears, Frank? I'll give you tears."
Well, that's Faye Dunaway.
That's Faye fucking Dunaway.
Well, Betty Davis said that, listen, Betty Davis was on the set, and I forgot the name of the movie, but it was a haunted movie about a haunted house. And Faye Dunaway was one of the major characters. And one of the directors said to Betty Davis, "Is she giving you a hard time?" Betty didn't answer it. Now, Faye Dunaway walks by, and he said to Faye Dunaway, "I hope you're not going to give Betty a hard time, because, this film is getting a little tense." And Faye Dunaway just looked at Betty, and Betty walked by Faye Dunaway, and with her hand, she brushed her aside. She said, "Darling, I will demolish you." And she kept walking.
Ooh,
and that's so Betty Davis, and I, of course, loved her. I mean, she was the best pal you could hang around with. She loved the gay guys.
Actually, too, I should explain because you don't know. Ron actually Ron had a television show in L.A. for many years called Set the Record Straight, where he interviewed all the legends of Hollywood. So like he's done all interviews and hung out with like all the Turner Classic Movie people.
The real stars.
It was fun, Ron, to have that be your first movie, because all the people that were doing the makeup for Faye, dressing her up as Joan, had worked with Joan and they were telling stories. And for years after that, because I'd done that movie, you talk about the gay community, that I was that was my first sort of subgenre that I found myself unwittingly admitted into, because whenever I'd walk down the street for years after Mommie Dearest, some gay guy would go, Christopher!
That's
That
excellent.
famous line.
Fabulous.
But I could tell you a really quick story. Well, I forgot the story. See what happens when you get old? Who was I going to talk about? It was
don't
very
know.
important, too.
I'll finish this one and maybe it'll spur.
And then it'll come back to me,
Mine,
right?
yours.
See what happens?
I remember getting, I had my old beat up Ford Galaxy, and I was getting money out of my Sumitomo, that tells you how long ago it was, branch ATM. And some guy went, oh, she was a bitch. She couldn't even leave me enough money to get a nice car. I like my car, and I wasn't really in the will.
Right?
When,
You're like,
when-
it
when
was a
I
movie.
when I interviewed Cliff Robertson on my show, Set the Record Straight, I said, what was it like working with Joan Crawford on Autumn Leaves? He said, well, I'll give you a quick summary of that story. She invited me to her home on Bristol Drive, by the way, in Brentwood. And there she was, laying by the pool in a terry cloth robe. Somebody was doing a pedicure, somebody was doing a manicure, and La Crawford gracefully smiled. She said, oh, so you're my leading man in Autumn Leaves. He said, yes. He was ready to leave, and Joan said, no, don't leave. I'll be done in a minute. Now she's done, and she takes him up to her bedroom, where she's lying on a chaise lounge with her legs open. Okay?
Oh.
And she wanted him big time. So it's in my video. If you ever see the show, you can hear him say it
Her
himself.
legs are open in your video?
No. She was laying, she had gorgeous legs, and she was laying on the chaise, I guess, creaming her legs, being very seductive. And Cliff said, luckily, my girlfriend had given me a wristwatch with a timer in it. He said, and when Joan Crawford made the offer, the timer went off, and he remembered his girlfriend, and he said, I'm very sorry, but I'm leaving here now, and I'm leaving here a virgin. And Joan was after him throughout the whole film of Autumn Leaves. She hated him, that he wouldn't make a pass at her. She was also a dyke. I mean, I don't know what her story was. She made it with so many women as well as
She was
men.
bisexual.
Well,
Totally.
There's some people, and this is one of the things that you've come across, I'm sure. It's about 50-50 with the legends, in my experience. They're the ones who think they're legends in their own minds, and there's something about fame that can be very dangerous, and I was always wary of it myself, and I love the idea of having anonymity and flying under the radar and being able to have a personal life and being able to have personal experiences where you could be the one studying people instead of the people all studying you. And I'd been doing it for so long. I'd been around people that were suddenly like inundated with fans. Like you couldn't have a conversation in a restaurant, but that some drunk person was going to come up and go, dude, you're that guy. Oh my God. And
I love you. Can I have a picture?
And, it sort of queers the scene, in some level more often than not. And so that never really appealed to me. The opportunities for better roles always appealed to me, but it's a catch-22 because a lot of times you get this fawning attention that I've watched so many people get, and they believe it. They believe that their shit don't stink, and that it's.
Well, you know what? They're so pampered. The studios back then pampered them.
Well,
And
they still
gave them
do.
what they wanted. Let me
They
tell you
still
another Betty Davis story. Betty, myself, and I have an echo here. Chad, can you get the echo out? Very bad echo. Anyway, Betty and I and a group of other gay guys went to Le Moustache, a restaurant in L.A. years ago. And Betty Davis had on a sailor hat upside down, no lipstick, and big sunglasses. She looked like a little old lady because she was an old lady. And we're sitting there, and we're all gabbing, and nobody's looking. And the room is filled with gay guys because Le Moustache, was a big gay hangout. And suddenly, Betty was done, and she put her lipstick on, and she went to the waitress, coffee! Well, the minute that mouth opened and the
they
red
knew it
lips,
was Betty,
forget
of
it. They all
course.
knew it, and they
Yeah.
came running around the table by the hundreds. And they're saying to Betty, I love you, I love you. She said, of course you do, dear. I mean, she had answers like you wouldn't believe. But it was amazing. It was almost like Snake Pit. Here this old lady is sitting there without lipstick. Suddenly she puts lipstick on and yells, coffee, with that famous voice. And it was bedlam. I mean, how she handled it, I'd never know.
This is going to be the Betty Davis interview.
I want to move on from
No,
Betty
you know what it is?
Davis.
Our interviews are conversations. We don't do those stereotype interviews that bore the audiences. We like to keep it flowing. We like to hear what you say, what we say. We're a conversation show. And that's why we're the #1 radio show, because we don't do interviews. How would you like it if I do and da-da-da-da-da, and all that boring crap you've done 1,000 times? We want new stuff, and you gave us gorgeous stuff today. The Crawford Faye Dunaway, forget it. Your show is going to be #1.
There you go.
Oh, I love
also,
everything he
you
gave
made
us.
a comment, which I want to let everybody know that your wife made you green tea or
a green
something
drink.
green, a green
No.
drink. And that for people who don't know, because I didn't know, when I Googled you on YouTube, I was looking to see what kind of stuff comes up. And there's all kinds of stuff of you at all this different Twilight stuff. And I was like, he's not in Twilight. Then I learned that your wife, Sarah Clark, she is in Twilight.
She was Esme
and now you're
in
like,
Twilight.
and you're a whole like movie family. Now your daughter's going to start acting. So like you're actually like a movie family. And both you and your wife are both in like these iconic, like films that people will be talking about forever.
I wish I was related to you. I could get in movies too.
We met on the pilot of 24, and that was about 14 years ago, I guess. And so we started out working together, and we got to do a lot of really fun. We always look for opportunities to get to work together, but as it stands now, it seems like one of us is away and the other one's dealing with the girls, and then we get back and then we switch places, and that's what we're in the midst of doing right now. But we're both very lucky that we are continuing to work into our relative dotages, because obviously men have an easier time working when they're older. But my wife's just gotten another great show, and I'm very excited for her because she keeps working in her 40s, which is as difficult as it is. You're saying keep working in your 50s.
The dangerous
So you
40.
have like all these. I'm just gonna like do a little quick rundown of some of the stuff that you've been in that I like a lot, so people know. Because then we're gonna ask you some questions. But like, so you've been in Gattaca, Taken, Air Force One, Terminator, Transcendence, Faster, Kick-Ass, one of my favorites. For the Boys, A Few Good Men, The Rock, Storytelling, Fracture, and the Nikita TV series. Do you have something out of all the cool stuff you've been in that stands out as like, hey, this is one of the things I dug the most, or I really, really liked a lot, or that I had the best experience on, or something like that?
Well, there's one that's coming out on the 1st of October or something like, no, I think it's next Monday. And it's totally independent. And Ron, you'll get a kick out of this because it was funded by the Humphrey Bogart Foundation.
Wow.
And this writer has been a noir aficionado, and he wrote a script and posted it on Kickstarter. And a friend of mine was playing the femme fatale, thought of me for this part, and the director said, yeah, if you could get it to him. And I read it, and I just fell in love with the script. And Steve Anderson, the director, had posted it and had immediately started raising a very modest budget. The whole thing was designed to be shot on a shoestring, and very skeletal, pared down crew, and a true sort of modern contemporary noir shot in and around Los Angeles. And a lot of it in a taxi cab and on Sunset Boulevard and just in Beverly Hills and out to the PCH. And it's
Sounds fun.
Oh my gosh, it's such a cool movie. It's called This Last Lonely Place.
Oh, I want to see that.
Yes, I've heard of that. I actually
wanna
saw the
see it.
trailer for it.
What is it?
This Last Lonely Place.
Yes,
Oh, I want to
yes,
see it.
I've
This
heard of
last.
that.
We're going to see it.
And
Wait,
it
wait.
pays an homage to the Bogart film In a Lonely Place
Yeah.
with the title. The Bogart Foundation, it sort of popped up for them, and they said, we'll give you that amount of money. And Steve said, well, actually, I've already raised this much, so I would only think it was take it and use it all.
Exactly.
And the Bogart Foundation had all this incredible sort of access to things like, the Polo Lounge and the Chateau Marmont, all these great locations we got to use.
All the wonderful places.
They owed Bogart a favor for having used his likeness without permission or one thing or another. Fantastic. Parlaying these into wonderful locations for this really small movie. And it's pure independent film. And Indiegogo, or however it's pronounced, Indiegogo, I guess.
Indiegogo.
Yeah.
Is doing the distribution starting on Monday. And we're going to do this Friends radio show together and promote the release of it so that people can buy it on their own and they can get it with the perks. And it's very much in that. And for me, what you were saying, Jimmy, it's like I really sort of deliberately targeted from you do a big movie, oftentimes like A Few Good Men. I call it A Few Big Roles, A Few Big Paychecks, among which mine was not either. But you're associated with these big movies. And in fact, my character is giving Tom Cruise his assignment, and Kevin Pollak, who I love and saw recently. And I send them on their mission. And I'm, I refer to Division wants you on this. And there's this sort of like, Division, what's Division? Somehow between that character, the captain, who's also head of the legal education of these guys, Marines, that association, I think, linked into Air Force One, where I play the Secret Service traitor in that case.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What sort of linked into becoming iconically associated with some nefarious governmental power, and then being head of the counter-terrorist unit as George Mason in 24, again, going down with the plane as I had gone down with the plane in Air Force One. These weird sort of recurring motifs start to happen. And then I got offered that TV series Nikita, where I play the guy who has created Division. And so there's always, it's really fun to watch the fans sort of put these weird little dot to dots. Was there any, and the writer said, of course, it popped into our mind early on that you'd be perfect for this, having been the first person to introduce Division into the vernacular. I don't know. I've always loved going from big movies to little big parts in little movies to little parts in big movies, and back and forth and sort of dodging it. So a lot of times, you don't get seen in these movies like This Last Lonely Place. I'm hoping people see it, but you do it because you love the story, and you get to, like I was saying, I've never made a movie for less, but I've never enjoyed making one more than I did on This Last Lonely Place. Who is that, Ron?
This is Star, Jimmy Star's dog.
Oh,
and he's
always on the show with us.
I'm dying to see the movie,
and
though, because I like the trailer.
He wants to say hello to you.
Hello, Star. You look like a star.
Now the dog's getting famous.
But he's annoying because he's at my foot chomping on it because he wants to get picked up.
So
he's needy.
So one other thing.
Wait, one more thing. Listen, I'm a little old. Give me that title again. I can't remember that damn title for some reason.
Yeah, it's a hard title. I kept wanting to
Yeah, what is it called?
The Last Lonely Place, but
let me memorize it. The Last Lonely Place.
This Last Lonely Place.
Oh, This Last Lonely Place.
Say it. It looks better in print, This Last Lonely Place.
Yeah, if I read it, I'll remember.
When it's ready to go, and you tweet it out, like, let me know, and I'll like put it through all our social media and help promote it for you.
I'll talk about it when I see it.
Thanks so much.
I'll review it.
It was so deeply satisfying working on it. Reese Coiro and Carly Pope are the other two primary actors in it, and the three of us just loved it. We were mostly the three of us in a taxi cab with the director and the cinematographer. All the guys were over 6 feet. So there's four of us in a taxi. And literally the director had the cans on his head and his ears next to the earphones, his knees right up there next to his earphones. And this 6'4" or 5" cinematographer, young guy, skinny, thank God, because he wouldn't have fit. And he was just like a praying mantis that was able to get these shots in the back seat or in the front seat shooting back. And we would just go for these long takes. And my dog is getting old and she's limping.
Aww.
Star's 14.
Sophie. Really?
Yeah.
Sophie's a bigger dog and her hips are going.
Well,
she's only 12.
Star just came out of makeup. That's why he looks.
Yeah.
Without makeup, he looks 14.
I have a question because you've worked with one of my favorite actors who I would love to work with. That's Liam Neeson, and I hope you have a nice, good story to tell about him.
Liam is wonderful.
I hope he's like an awesome person and a really good
sweetheart.
co-star.
Is he? He is.
Yeah,
sweetie pie.
I love him. I love you, Liam.
He's a solid guy.
Mm-hmm.
We did a movie right before Taken that we both is a great example of you never know which ones are going to bust out. But we wished the best for this movie that a friend of mine, David Von Anken, who I became friends with since, he directed and executive produced on Salem as well. We just stayed really good friends after this movie that he directed called Seraphim Falls with Liam and Pierce Brosnan. Mm-hmm. And Mel Gibson's company produced it. It's about $11 million, and it was right when all that crazy stuff was happening for Mel.
And what's going on with Mel now?
Let him go back to the story. Go back to the story because we only have like 3 minutes left.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. They kind of dropped the ball on the distribution or the marketing and the ads and stuff. But Liam and Pierce and I and everybody involved just loved this movie, Seraphim Falls. And then shortly after that, Liam and I were in the table reading for Taken, and he came up and he goes, "Yeah, I'm a bit worried about this one. Could be a bit of a B movie. The hero stuff. I don't know. A bit embarrassed." And I said, "Yeah, I know. It's nice to see you again anyway." And
You're talking about Taken now.
Yeah, which
that
was
was
a
a
huge
great-
hit.
I love that movie.
It was
Me
great.
too. I liked
Taken
it.
was
his
fabulous.
performance in that movie, just and the way the Frenchman was the cinematographer for Luc Besson and had such a great visual way of tapping the audience into this
Camera.
deep
Mhm.
kind of adrenalized terror of something happening
Yeah.
to your child, and it just never let go from the minute you were on there. And so you never know. I mean, you're making a movie, you think it's going to be great, and nobody ends up seeing it, and then the other times you don't know. Well, wow, and then ba-boom.
Or the one you think's going to be a blockbuster
Right.
flops, and then the one that you
Right.
think's going to flop, people
Right.
actually take to, and you're like, you actually enjoyed that? You mean you've seen
Yeah.
it? You really enjoyed?
No,
Yeah.
Taken was a
I
great
love
story.
I
loved
like
it.
Taken too.
And it was visual. It was a visual movie, and I'm very involved, as Jimmy knows, with camera. And when I go to a film and the film tells me the story without the actors portraying it, that's when I like the film.
Yeah, that's a good cinematographer and
and that
director.
photography told the story where the camera went, your eyes went. You knew the moves. You
Yeah,
didn't. The actor didn't have to
Pierre
spell it
Perel.
out.
And he's a cinematographer directing, and that
Wonderful,
if you have
wonderful.
an actor as solid as Liam is, carrying the
Mhm.
inner life of the character along with him, and his physicality along with that.
Definitely.
So here's what we got to do, everybody, because we're out of
Wait,
time.
just one thing.
No.
I firmly believe that every great film has a great DP. If you don't have a good DP, your film's not going to happen. That's my belief. What do you think?
I think you
What do
need
you
a good
think?
one, absolutely. But
Isn't it all up to the DP to make your work look good?
I chose movies a lot of times because I heard who the DP was going to be, and I'd rather have a small role with that DP.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you
Big
very
role with
much.
everyone.
Thank you. You're,
Yeah.
Okay,
you're a
so-
good actor. You know
so
what
if
you're
you guys
talking about.
if you guys want to find out more, you can follow Xander Berkeley. It's XanderBerkeley on Twitter. He's also got a great website, XanderBerkeley.net. He's also an artist. Check out his art; it's really cool. He makes the masks in the TV show Salem. There's videos on YouTube. He's got great clips and everything on his website. So check it out. We want to thank you for coming on the Jimmy Star Show. And anytime you have anything to promote, let us know, and we'll help promote it.
And keep us posted as whether or not your character's coming back, which I hope it does.
Yeah, we
I'm
wanna
going to
know
watch
that
it
too.
regardless, but I really hope you come back.
And I
gotta
want to
tie
thank
up
you.
loose ends, bottom line, but yeah.
And I want to thank you for the Faye Dunaway story. Thank you so much for that. Our
You
fans
bet.
are going to love it.
It'd be fun to chat at greater length off camera too. It'd be great to hear more. Of
We
your
would
story.
love it.
Off camera, I've got stories about Cary Grant and
I'd
Randolph
love to
Scott
hear. I'd love
and my
to-
best friend,
Nice to
Mr.
meet you
Blackwell.
guys.
Bye. Thanks, Anthony.
We're going to stay in
Bye.
touch. Thank you,
Bye.
Xander. Bye. Have a good
Yeah.
one. Say hello to your wife and kids. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Great show. Good show.
Hey, everybody. That was a great show. So
I like
we want to
him.
thank
He's
everybody
nice.
for tuning
Good
in.
show.
Chad, how much time? I'm out of time, right?
You got about a minute and a half.
Oh, a minute and a half. Yay. So we want to thank everybody for tuning in. We had a really good time. Xander's awesome.
Yeah, he
Everybody
was very
enjoyed
nice.
it.
I liked him.
Follow us on Twitter. I'm at Jimmy Star Show and Dr. Jimmy Star. Ron is at Ron Russell Show. Deidre's.
Deidra Sarego.
Also follow at LGBTQ TV and follow at the #1 Magical Weekend.
And let me know on my Facebook page, that's Ron Russell Show, whether you like getting all this Hollywood dish and all the inside stories about the stars of yesteryear. Let me know. I'm interested in finding out what you think.
And thanks, everybody in the chat room. Thanks, Chad. Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Nate from LGBTQ TV. Everybody, have a great week and have a great weekend. And we'll have another great show set up for you guys next week. Thanks.
Later.
Bye, everybody.
You need Jimmy Star, Jimmy Star. One day I was walking down the street. My mate come up to me and said, "Hey mate, wanna go to a party? I'm like, what are you talking about, love? I ain't got no gums. I need some nice gums so I can go out to this party and pull all the chicks and the geezers. Do you know what I mean?